Have you ever caught yourself saying that you will finally start working on your massive dreams, get your health in order, or change your life as soon as the timing is absolutely perfect? We constantly convince ourselves that tomorrow will somehow magically bring us more energy, more money, and less fear, tricking our minds into a perpetual state of comfortable waiting that completely destroys our potential. The devastating truth is that the perfect moment is a brilliant, invisible illusion created by your own anxiety to keep you completely trapped in a life you secretly want to escape. Before we dive into today's life-changing lesson on the extreme danger of waiting for tomorrow, please take a quick moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel so we can continue bringing you these powerful stories. In a distant, ancient valley divided by a massive, fiercely rushing river, there lived a highly intelligent but incredibly cautious young man named Cassian. Across the dangerous, swirling waters lay the legendary city of gold, a breathtaking place where absolute masters of their craft lived in incredible wealth, total freedom, and profound peace. Cassian had spent his entire youth deeply studying the city from afar, drawing detailed, perfect blueprints of the magnificent life he would finally build once he crossed the rushing water. Every single morning, he would confidently pack his heavy wooden bags, walk down to the muddy riverbank, and intensely study the violent, unpredictable currents crashing against the sharp rocks. But every single day, his brilliant, over-analytical mind would quickly find a highly logical, completely paralyzing reason why today was simply not the right day to attempt the dangerous crossing. On Mondays, he would convince himself that the water was entirely too high from the recent mountain rain, deciding it was much smarter to simply wait until the dry season finally arrived. When the dry season came, he would look up at the dark, gray clouds and tell himself that a massive storm was likely brewing, making the journey far too risky for his precious cargo. He constantly told his tired friends and family that he was merely being highly strategic, carefully waiting for the exact, perfect day when the river would calm down and crossing would be entirely effortless. Years quickly turned into decades, and the young, energetic Cassian slowly transformed into a tired, gray-haired old man who still walked down to the exact same muddy riverbank every single morning. One crisp autumn afternoon, as Cassian was sitting on his usual mossy rock and complaining about the loud, crashing waves, a young, ragged traveler, completely covered in dirt, walked out of the forest. The young traveler did not hesitate for a single second, immediately gathering rough, broken branches and tying them together with cheap, frayed vines to build a highly imperfect, ugly little raft. Cassian watched in absolute horror, loudly warning the foolish boy that the current was far too aggressive, the sky was entirely too cloudy, and his crude, pathetic raft would surely break into pieces. The young traveler paused for a brief moment, looked at the old, bitter man sitting comfortably on the safe shore, and smiled with a deep, unbreakable sense of internal courage. If I sit here and wait for this violent river to completely stop flowing, I will absolutely die an old, miserable man on this muddy bank without ever having truly lived my life, the boy replied. The water will never be perfectly calm, the sky will never be entirely clear, and my tiny, fragile raft will never be completely invincible. But I would rather drown violently trying to cross than comfortably decay in the exact same spot forever. With a fierce, passionate yell, the young boy pushed his ugly wooden raft into the freezing, chaotic water, aggressively battling the massive waves that immediately tried to pull him under. Cassian watched in absolute stunned silence as the boy was violently thrown around, nearly falling off several times, but constantly fighting with every single ounce of his incredibly resilient strength. After an exhausting, terrifying hour of battling the relentless currents, the young traveler finally crashed onto the golden shores of the city, pulling himself up from the dirt and proudly walking into his magnificent new future. Cassian was left completely alone on the quiet, muddy bank, feeling a sudden, crushing weight of immense, unbearable regret as he stared at his own perfect, unused blueprints slowly fading in the dirt. He had brilliantly strategized, perfectly planned, and carefully calculated every single possible risk, but he had entirely forgotten the most fundamental, undeniable rule of human existence. This powerful, heartbreaking story holds an incredibly urgent, life-altering truth for anyone who is currently standing on the safe, comfortable shore of their own life, endlessly waiting for the perfect conditions to finally begin. You are actively lying to yourself every single time you say that you will start your business when you have more money, start your diet when you are less stressed, or start living your truth when you feel totally ready. The universe is a naturally chaotic, beautifully unpredictable place, and the heavy river of your daily responsibilities, sudden emergencies, and unexpected fears will absolutely never, ever stop flowing. If you demand perfect weather, flawless mental health, and zero absolute risk before you take your very first step, you are secretly signing a permanent contract to remain completely miserable and completely stagnant. Fear brilliantly disguises itself as extreme practicality, tricking your highly intelligent mind into believing that endless, passive preparation is somehow the exact same thing as actually making real, tangible progress. But reading 100 massive books on how to perfectly swim will not save your life if you constantly refuse to ever jump into the freezing, uncomfortable water and actually learn how to forcefully move your arms. The incredibly successful people you constantly admire were never handed a perfectly calm river. They simply built an ugly and perfect raft and aggressively launched it directly into the terrifying chaos. They absolutely felt the exact same paralyzing fear. They dealt with the exact same frustrating lack of resources, and they faced the exact same violent storms, but they simply chose to paddle anyway. Your precious time on this spinning earth is violently ticking away every single second. And the absolute greatest tragedy of human life is arriving at the very end, only to realize you never actually entered the arena. Stop obsessing over the perfect, flawless plan, violently burn your comfortable excuses to the ground, and give yourself the ultimate permission to be completely messy, totally unprepared, and incredibly brave. Take a massive, deep breath today. Look directly at the terrifying, roaring river standing firmly between you and your biggest dreams, and take one aggressive, highly imperfect step into the freezing water. The brutal conditions will miraculously force you to rapidly adapt. The heavy struggles will actively build your necessary mental muscles, and you will eventually find your way to the golden shore of your own incredible destiny. Start exactly where you are right now. Violently use whatever broken resources you currently have in your hands, and absolutely refuse to waste another precious, unrecoverable day waiting for a magical tomorrow that simply does not exist. If you found true value in this story and learned something incredibly important about the power of starting today, please hit that like button, leave a comment below about your journey, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful life lessons.